So, Will, you're from, the Midlands. Why must we start with this? Someone has to be, I suppose.
I think you've just got to say it like it is now, Will.
Bring an Offaly supporter in.
Say it like it is.
With this straight away.
You've just got to own it. What is going on with Offaly football and the managerial situation and a lost dressing room and players leaving the match at the weekend at half-time and then coming back and then going back on? They left at half-time because they were substituted, weren't happy. All of this stuff is swirling around, and it seems like a complete mess. For a county who've won one Leinster Championship match in 11 years. Oh, you've had some good times,
2008,
You've had some great times.
Aside from obviously the Longford game a couple of years ago, we've had, quite frankly, miserable run in the Leinster Championship. We've flirted between the bottom two divisions for the best part, between Division 4 and 3. So it's been yo-yoing up and down. So it's not like Offaly have gone terribly overnight and lost a game surprisingly against Wicklow. But obviously Offaly would have been expected to beat Wicklow last Sunday, given that Wicklow had had a very poor Division 4 campaign and picked up just a single win. Yeah. And then Offaly conspired really to throw the game away and then lose in extra time by 5 points. And since then, there's been plenty of reports. I know we'll be talking to Brian Gavin a little bit later on in the programme, who was commentating on the game on Sunday, that effectively Stephen Wallace is a rift between him and the players in the dressing room. And apparently there was a right old row at half-time, particularly at the weekend. Nigel Dunn, you referenced, reportedly walked out at half-time. He was so frustrated about being substituted just 28 minutes into the game. Nigel would have been Offaly's main point scorer throughout the league and has taken over almost the forward mantle since Niall McNamee, who was the talismanic forward for 13 years in a row. And Nigel was doing all the scoring during the league. Didn't have the best of games on Sunday, wasn't really feeling the weight of the ball, missed a few frees as well. He was taken off, greatly frustrated. Apparently at half-time he went out to his car and was about to leave the grounds before being persuaded by one of the management team to come back. He comes back on, misses a crucial penalty in the second half, maybe where his headspace was, and Offaly go on to get defeated afterwards. So very messy from that point of view. Sean Pender, last year's captain, was taken off as well, was very unhappy about the substitution when he was taken off just 6 minutes into the second half. There's apparently quite a bit of player unrest. There was a lot of arguments about player eligibility last week with Keane Johnson, who was a fairly key player for Offaly throughout the league, just 18 years of age, scored 5 points in the O'Byrne Cup against Dublin. Because of an internal rule in Offaly, he's not been allowed to play senior football this year. He's to play under 21st. So there wasn't ideal preparations going into this game at the weekend. But I guess with that disappointment, a lot of dirty linen has now found its way into the
Talking about Premier League footballers here.
I know. The net result is that Stephen Wallace's tenure, and he's in his first season, he's under huge pressure, So we'll talk to Brian Gavin about this whole situation. Stephen Wallace is from Kerry. He's won 3 All-Irelands, obviously at a lower level.
Junior level and club level,
Yeah, intermediate club, and he's a junior with Kerry twice as well in the last number of years. But was certainly picked by a committee in Offaly, which had a number of former players on the committee. They felt this was a young, up-and-coming coach, might work well with Offaly and turn things around. But if anything, it seems to have all completely fallen apart.
Yeah, I mean, the feeling was, Steve Wallace said he wanted sexy football for Offaly this season. That was the whole idea, and he's referenced that a few times.
Frightening image.
Yeah, by comparison to last year under Pat Flanagan, where Offaly and Westmeath played one of the worst games of Gaelic football that's ever been seen, the drawn game last summer. I think a lot of supporters probably lost faith with Pat Flanagan at that point. Eventually he was removed at the end of the season, and then Stephen Wallace and his management team, primarily from Kerry, were brought in. The league was up and down, very poor result against Longford, but they dug in at the end and got 2 results, including a win at their neighbours Westmeath to stay up on the final day. So there was optimism going into the championship, and then Stephen Wallace cops an 8-week ban, which I think has since turned into a 12-week ban after his appeal. So he's not able to be on the sideline for these games. And I think a lot of people probably saw the pictures of the weekend with him in the hoodie with the rolled up programme sitting at the back of the stand in O'Moore Park.
I mean, you don't want to judge someone on how they're looking, and it was just one photo, but it didn't look right. It just looked off, to be honest. So they finished 6th in Division 3. I mean, he was suspended for a punch, which people have seen the pictures, is not pretty, but that shouldn't really affect whether or not he's doing a good job with Offaly or not. So we'll talk to Brian Gavin, get a feel for what's going on.